Main reason is that this is a private company, doesn't have any utility status at all, and they're trying to come in here and get a certification certificate, which would give them public utility rights. It would give them eminent domain rights, and that's never been done before with just a private company doesn't have anything to do with utilities at all. It's never been done before. Their towers are going to be 150 to 200 feet tall, about 700 feet apart, and it's DC power, of which Illinois does not get any. All we are is a highway through the state. What they're after is to come from Kansas, which supposedly they have wind farms, which they do not, and go across those states ending in Indiana to tap into the electrical grid over there. And they don't have any buyers yet either of the power. Out of the 11 states up the East Coast, 8 of them said for sure, we don't want you. We'll build our own windmills and stuff like this and employ our own people. So there's really no need for this company. Plus, Illinois, I don't know if a lot of people realize or not, but they're right on schedule as far as the president goes of having enough green energy in the state. We don't need an outside company from Kansas crossing the state to try to supposedly give us power, which they like to say here lately, but there's no power. There's no power. They're just after the bigger market out east is what they are.
Yeah, and we're particularly, when we started with this project, what really was our main concern is this is a company that's a limited liability corporation. And if you look at the organization chart for this company, the only assets, the only tangible assets in this whole picture are the land rights to our citizens. There are so many limited liability companies between this project and where the Clean Line owners are, that by the time any lawsuit that might be brought actually makes it to some place where they can see some resolution or get some kind of decision out of a federal jurisdictional process is the landowner. So if our ICC does grant this project and this company rights, a limited liability company, rights to eminent domain in Illinois, that would be unprecedented, ever. We don't want them to open the door. That's a big one for the block. Now, as far as all of our citizens, they oppose trying to build these additional power lines. We've already got Ameren and Commonwealth Edison, and there are instances where many of the lines with Ameren are going to be very close. Now, they say that they're going to build 150, 160 to 200-foot towers. And if you're going to build a 200-foot tower, it's not going to be a monopole, because they, at all of their open houses, they always said, we have approval to do these monopoles. But you can't do a monopole if you have to turn corners and curves and things. Those have to be the big lattice work, four-legged, with the great big pads in the ground. So that's a lot of land that's being taken up. Not in addition to the 200 foot of right-of-way just to run the line, you have to have access roads to this area. And when you have that much imposition on a farmland and a community, those are our property values that are being reduced. And our school systems depend upon the revenues from those, taxes for properties to fund our schools. Now, getting a one-time payment or getting payment over 20 years might sound nice, but look down the road, and what was the impact of this project going to have on our children and our children's children down the road? One of the big oppositions to this, or one of the items that was brought out when Rock Island, we call it a sister project up in the Rock Island area, they wanted to take power into Chicago, but Chicago hasn't received them either. Is that there is no identified decommissioning plan stated in the applications that Clean Line has put into our ICC. They didn't put one in Rock Island. They did not do one in this petition that they have currently ongoing. Now, we've been subjected to an expedited petition process in the ICC. Every other state has had 3 years to prepare to get to the point that we're at right now, and we've had since Well, the first meeting was December, and by the time you get organized, it's like January, February before you get going. So we've been running hard and running fast through all kinds of weather. And it's not just us. We have representatives of the block in every county, all 9 counties, and other areas of the state, not just the affected counties. We have landowners that come from Florida, Missouri, other states, other parts of our state. They're all affected, children, all the way through the elderly. So those are the folks that we're most concerned about, and we want to represent them adequately. We have an alliance that is fighting the legal battle for us. They're another leg of our whole organization, and the alliance is doing the groundwork with the ICC right now. We are currently in the Supreme Court of Illinois because we filed suit when ICC accepted their application, because the part of the law that they applied under was for a public utility, someone who had that status. They have no status in Illinois. They have no status anywhere, to be honest. Right now they are a little box drawn on a piece of paper, and it's a limited liability corporation again. So those are the things that we're hoping our ICC will look through and adequately evaluate and be on the side of the citizens that they were elected or appointed to represent. You know, they're not here for big business. They're here for the citizens, and we want our citizens to be heard.
We're from Macoupin County area, which is, we live around Girard, which is about 35 miles south of Springfield down Route 4. We've lived there about 37 years. And we went to one of these meetings initially, and we found out that these transmission lines were going to go across our neighbor's house, right across it. We're about 200 yards away. Our picture window looks at our neighbor's house across the little valley, and it will devalue our lands with transmission lines sitting there, as well as his. Since that time, we were what they call an alternate B route, which they've dropped. They have a primary route and
alternate A route.
Alternate A route. We stayed in the fight because we didn't think it was right, and plus the fact I'm totally, and she is too, against eminent domain, because what they'll do, they'll force you into court, and a judge or jury will decide what your land's worth. And if you have 300 bushel acre corn and you're sitting next to a guy that produces 175 bushel, they're going to average that out. You're going to lose on that deal. And the guy on that might come up a little bit on the lower end, but that's what it's about.
We're talking about this project wanting to do wind power in Illinois this way. Now, we're not opposed to green, we're not opposed to conservation or anything like that, but there are so many other ways our state can satisfy our green needs other than 200-foot towers, and they tell us there are going to be 5 to 7 of them per mile going across from one end of the state to the other end of the state. And the amount of power, if they do drop power in Illinois and they convert it from DC over to AC, it's not that much to be significant. We've heard so many different numbers when we've gone to the Clean Line meetings that it would be hard to predict exactly which one is most accurate, but you're not talking a large municipality at all. And to look at what this is going to do to, they're going to clear cut, they're going to have power lines, and you have what they call a corona effect off power lines that affects anything around it. Sometimes it's medical, sometimes it's the animals, it's the growth of the plants and things. Greene County has a big industry in morel mushrooms. A lot of people's livelihoods depend on harvesting those mushrooms and selling them. They plan on going through that area. There's hunting grounds over on the Pike County side. There are homes that when we had drawn the maps out, they're going right around homes that have small children, elderly. You know, those are the kinds of things. Why do you want to take a chance on an unknown company, a limited liability corporation, eminent domain, an untested whole idea?
When you're talking a 200-foot by 200-foot tower, it come out on the ICC up in Rock Island that the farmer's totally responsible if he happens to catch his equipment in it and tears down the tower. Now, that's bad enough if you were to live through it, and you might have get some insurance to help you out. As far as those towers are anywhere from $100,000 to $200,000 apiece. But up on the ICC witness stand, they had to admit to that, well, there might be a chance that you'd be responsible for the power that the seller's trying to produce, and you might be responsible for the power that the buyer doesn't get if you knock down one of those towers. Okay, that could be up to $1 million a day. Okay, there's no insurance company around that's going to insure that type of money. Okay, so basically you've lost your farm if you live through the accident.
Having a limited liability company come to our Illinois Commerce Commission and get the rights of eminent domain and the ability to build things untested, no experience on their part, that's my biggest concern. It'll be unprecedented in Illinois for that ever to have happened. We don't want that precedent set now. If you're not a public utility, you should not be given the rights of a public utility, and you should not give some pared down rights. Or we'll just call you a utility, and then let's see how you do. We don't want to be the guinea pig test animals out there. And it's keeping our future, because if this comes across, this doesn't affect just us here and now. This affects generations to come. With no decommissioning plan presented by this company, when ICC at Rock Island looked at the business plan for this, and in Missouri, the comment that was made was, and this was the staff of the ICC, it's an Enron type of business plan that they're proposing here. Now, we haven't heard that out of RCC currently on the grain belt, but Missouri has denied them, Arkansas has denied them, Iowa is still in the courts. Rock Island opposes them also, so we're waiting to see what happens. And we're hoping our ICC will stand with its citizens.
We don't want the eminent domain process at all. They do not have that up in the Rock Island on that decision up there. And for your readers and viewers' information, they've only got about 17% of the lease agreements up there. So when they come and say they're not going to use eminent domain, they got to use eminent domain. Otherwise, they're never going to build the thing, because there's a lot of people that, because of this land being passed down through generation, they're making their living off of it. They're not going to sell. It's good productive land, so why would you sell?